Hey, hi everybody! I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you're all smiling and enjoying your lovely day. So in this following tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you on how to set up iPhone-based face tracking for your VTuber model when it comes to VSeeFace. This can also kind of apply to Luppet or VMagic Mirror when it comes to iFacialMocap support. So heads up there, but this will primarily be focused on VSeeFace and just setting the face tracking up now. I do have a couple apps that I do want to cover and kind of show you how to do the connection with, so I hope this tutorial will help you out. So, but before we actually do get started, first and foremost, you need to have a Face ID compatible phone. So if you have something like an iPhone 4 or something pretty old, I'm sorry to say that iPhone probably may not work. I will have in the description of this tutorial a link that has the list of Face ID compatible iPhones. So if you do, you can check the list and see if your iPhone is Face ID compatible. If it's sadly not, let's say you have the iPhone 4 and oh no, it's not Face ID compatible. Well, one thing you could do is probably use an Android. If you have an Android, you could probably use that and use MeowFace, or even VTube Studio Android. You can actually use those to have the face tracking for VSeeFace. I'll make sure to leave in the description at least the MeowFace tutorial regarding how to do that. So do keep in mind, if you have an Android and you don't have an iPhone compatible, then definitely check that out. If by any chance you don't have an Android and you only have that iPhone 14 or that very old incompatible Face ID phone, you'll probably have to either buy a new iPhone. I usually recommend the iPhone X because it's actually one of the cheaper options for a Face ID compatible phone. In fact, iPhone X's values are actually going down really, they're actually going down quite a lot as the years pass by, so that's a recommendation I definitely would say. You could probably get an iPhone XR even as well for a pretty cheap price. It really just depends on where you live and where you can get it. If you can borrow an iPhone from a friend or you can buy an iPhone from a local store or something, just basically get a Face ID compatible phone. That's all I can really say. However you get it, as long as you don't rob it from someone, you know. But to start off, the first app I want to cover is Waidayo. Waidayo is the #1 program I recommend when it comes to setting up ARKit tracking to your VTuber model, and it also works with VMC. It's completely free. It's not paid like iFacialMocap and FaceMotion3D, but Waidayo is a pretty good choice. There's also VTube Studio, which I'll get to next, but let's start off with Waidayo. So Waidayo here, pretty good app. It's made with Unity. Pretty much all these apps are made with Unity. And basically you have this character. This is one of the default characters here, and it works pretty well. I will say though, the default character is not really the best with ARKit, considering that from the looks of it, it doesn't have the full iPhone blend shape, but it's a good start to at least get started with connecting the iPhone tracking to the model. So in case you're curious about putting your VRM files into Waidayo, iFacialMocap, or FaceMotion3D, allow me to show you how to quickly do that. This can also apply to live 2D models when you're putting it into VTube Studio iOS, if you so desire to use your live 2D model with your setup. But I'm not going to really go in depth with it because we're mainly going over 3D stuff basically, but I'll still quickly go over it a bit just so you get the idea. Now, first and foremost, you need iTunes. There's also a second method, which is Google Drive, but I'll show you the iTunes method first. You're going to go into, in the description, I have a download for iTunes if you need it. You could Google it or use a different search engine if you wish, but in the description, there's iTunes, and what you're going to do is you're going to download it and you're going to then log in with your Apple ID. And once you have that, everything's all set up and you're in this screen, what you're going to do is you're going to go all the way to the top to find this little phone button. It's on the top left. Here you should be able to see my mouse. You should click on the top left with this phone button, and then you're going to click on file sharing. And then after that, you're going to see all the apps that you're able to access when it comes to file transfer. We're going to click on the Waidayo, and what you're going to do is you're going to go to your PC, right? You're going to find the VRM file. Find the VRM file that's in your PC. Go ahead and do that right now. And what you're going to do is once you find your VRM file, you're going to make a duplicate of it. So if you don't know how to make a duplicate of it, just right click on your VRM file, click on the copy button, and then use Control V to paste this so you have a duplicate. or Control C and then Control V your file. Simple as that. Once you have that, what you'll then do is name the copied version default.vrm, default.vrm. That's how you should spell it, and I'll show you in iTunes right now. So I'll go ahead and click and drag my the default VRM file duplicate I have into Waidayo. And basically what this will do is that it will automatically load your VRM file into Waidayo. Just call it default VRM. And there you go. Boom, chakalaka boom, you did it. Now, when it comes to VTube Studio, usually for me, I usually use the Google Drive method, but if you so wish, you can actually put your Live 2D model folder here, and you should be able to put it in the Live 2D models as well here, so you can do that. And that's mainly for the Live 2D models though, but when it comes to iFacialMocap or FaceMotion3D, technically you don't really need iTunes to actually put the models in. I mean, you can actually for convenience sake, but the thing is that iFacialMocap and FaceMotion3D won't automatically read your VRM file at first. In fact, in the app, you'll actually have to hunt down the VRM file and find it, basically, and I'll show you how to do that, but just to let you know. But what you could do is on iFacialMocap, you can actually put your VRM file there, so that way it's at least easier to find your VRM file later. So that is something I will comment on. You could put your VRM file there, but just remember that it's not going to automatically load. You're just going to have to find the file, but this is convenient for at least having it already done because you have iTunes already. But let's go ahead. And now that we kind of have a general idea on putting our VRM files, or even 2D models even, into the phone with iTunes, let's go over the Google Drive method. So let's go over the Google Drive method of this. Now do keep in mind, if by any chance you don't like Google Drive, or you don't like iTunes, I'm going to say you can actually use whatever storage of choice, probably like either a mega or something, if it's supported on the iPhone, basically, on the App Store. So whatever you prefer as a storage or cloud service, use it however you want. For my case, I'm going to use Google Drive because it's the most common one, but if you prefer something else, that's your choice. The main goal is to get the VRM file into the iPhone, basically. That's the main goal, so that way Waidayo, iFacialMocap, or FaceMotion3D can actually detect your VRM file. Now, first and foremost, you're going to be needing Google Drive or whatever the heck your preferred storage is. So what you're going to do is you're going to first download the app. So go to the App Store, and I already typed it here, Google Drive. You're going to type in Google Drive or whatever you prefer, and you're going to press on search, and then you're going to download Google Drive at the top right here. Don't download Google Docs unless you need it, but Google Drive up here, and once you download it, just input your Google email and all that, and you should be a-okay. Now, the next step is to have your VRM file into Google Drive. How you're going to do that? You're going to be needing your PC for this. So on your PC, what you're going to do is you're going to choose a browser of choice. Doesn't matter what browser it is. You're going to go to Google Drive or whatever storage preference you have. You're going to put your VRM file in there, so that way what you're going to do is you're going to download the VRM file from the iPhone, you know, after you put the VRM file from PC to the cloud storage, basically. And I hope you are starting to see where I'm getting at, basically. Now, if by any chance you don't have a PC, I'm going to kind of question, I have a lot of questions if you don't have a PC, but I'm not going to ask those questions. If you don't have a PC, if you really want your VRM file into the phone, you're probably going to have to use Droid Hub. That's a good alternative. I'm pretty sure you can access that with Safari. Pretty easy to set up, I believe. So there's that option. There's probably some other model cloud services, but you can also be able to hopefully look up Google Drive on Safari and stuff. But as long as you are able to download the VRM file from Safari, you should be alright. But once again, I'm not going to go too in-depth on the whole non-PC users because this tutorial is mainly for PC users. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to go into Google Drive. you're going to hunt down the VRM file of your choice, and what you're going to do is, for my case, I found my file here. You're going to press on the 3 buttons right here of your model after you search it up. Then you're going to press on Open In right here. Preparing to export. Do not click on airdrop. You don't want to share your models accidentally to others, but you're going to press on Save to Files. And what you're going to do is you're going to select iCloud Drive. So I've made a folder for mine. It looks like this, so use it as reference. You can make your own folders with the top right, and there's like a little folder with a plus button, so you can do that. But what you're going to do is you're going to press on Save. For my case, I'll replace mine, but you just add your VRM file there. And now, basically, you should already go into Files, and you should already have your VRM file right there. See? Simple as that. Now, how do you load it into iFacialMocap and FaceMotion3D? Because on Waidayo, I usually recommend the iTunes method. You can technically also do it in files itself as well, but let's show you iFacialMocap. iFacialMocap, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the gear button. You're going to go all the way down to detail settings, so it's right down here, detail settings. And what you're going to do is you're going to press the button that says load VRM avatar when pressing character button. So this that way it turns the character button to loading the VRM file basically. You can also use blend shape clips if you wish, but I usually don't do that, but if you want, you can. It's pretty good. Like, let's say you have a Void model, and you put HANA tools on your model, but you also added, like, extra sliders. Like, you added extra sliders to have more control of your blend shapes. Maybe enable that option, but for me, I didn't do that, so I should be fine. So what you're going to then do is you're going to press on the character button, and this is where you're going to load your VRM file. Now, I can't really load my VRM file here without me crashing, so there's that. And I'll go over about avatar crashing and stuff in a bit, but before that, that's how you can load your VRM file. You just press it there, and boom, chakalaka boom, you're done. And then there's a folder should be created called Custom Avatars once you start loading your VRM file. So A-OK, you're good to go. But that's for iFacialMocap. Now, I'll tell you right now, it's pretty unnecessary if you do that. It's still a fun option, but if you're gonna do it for long live streams, it might actually, depending on how high poly your model is and such, it might be a bad option because it's gonna use too much. You're gonna overheat your phone if you do that, basically. So I would recommend maybe you could use it for like setting up your blend shapes and experimenting on the app, but overall, I would not recommend it for live streaming long term unless you're into that. But all I could say is I recommend using the gear button, and of course optimize for long time streaming. That way your phone doesn't overheat or anything, or blow up or crash during your streams. Now, what about FaceMotion3D? FaceMotion3D, pretty much the same thing, except a little different. So the thing is that you'll have to actually, and I'm kind of slightly laughing at this, but you actually have to buy, I believe you have to actually buy the ability to actually import your VRM files into FaceMotion3D. So you're going to have to go here, other purchases right here, and then you're going to click on VRM, and you have to buy it for about, you can do it either $1 a month or $6 if you want permanent, if you want to import your VRM file. Like I told you, this is, it's still pretty good, but once again, if you're going to stream it long-term use, it's probably going to heat your phone super easily. So while this is a cool option, it's kind of a more of a unnecessary option, to be honest, because once again, that's just how phones operate. Phones, they need really optimized models. They can only do so much. So you'll have to buy the VRM importing thing, which yes, some people are going to be a little upset about that. FaceMotion3D, I don't know why you've actually made almost every little option paid for, but I mean, as long as you're supporting the developer, you know, it's important to support them, okay? Even if they're asking for a little more money, at least support them. But basically you're gonna press on select, and then you're gonna scroll down to where it says VRM right here, and then you press on that option. It'll say okay, select the model, and then you're going to find your VRM file, which mine's right there, and then boom. And I can't really load my model without me crashing, so overall that's pretty much how you do it. That's how you load your VRM file for FaceMotion3D and iFacialMocap. And then for Waidayo, which once again my model crashes, but for Waidayo, like I told you with the iTunes, that's how you do it. And yeah, this can also, a little fun fact, what I showed you with the both methods also can apply to virtual face as well, but once again my avatar is really unoptimized, so yeah, it's very unoptimized, so I can't really show you fully, but overall that's pretty much how you put your VRM file into your iPhone. So I definitely would recommend either Google Drive or iTunes, but once again, if you have your own method to putting it into the iPhone, as long as it could load the VRM file, you should be a-okay. One last thing though is that avatar crashing, like I said. So basically, if the app, let's say Waidayo never starts up, or let's say the app crashes, or let's say the app lags too much, basically. Usually what that means is basically that if you actually import your VRM file into the app and you see that happening now, that means your avatar is too unoptimized. Like I said, phones can only power so much. They're not really as powerful as desktops and laptops, so because of that, they can only do so much. So avatar-wise, it's highly recommended that the avatar, at least polygon-wise, should be around the 30k try mark. If they're like 90k tries or 100k tries, they start getting a little too crazy, basically. So, meaning that they'll lag your phone a lot, they'll heat up the phone too easily because it's rendering too much. It's just too much information being processed. So because of that, the phone will crash if your model's extremely high poly. It could also be too, like, let's say your model is really low poly, but you still do have the crashing. It's probably because you also have too many blend shapes, because for some darn reason, blend shapes in VRM also literally put in a lot of megabytes into your file. I don't know why, it just does for at least some people, but all I can really say is if you want to, so Void people, like Void models, whether you're Void stable or Void beta, there should be an option in the program that should allow you to optimize the model's polygon count, especially if you have very high poly hair, because the base model should be around 50k tries. And sometimes, depending on how much hair you put on your model, it might make the model a lot more higher poly. But it shouldn't be too crazy though. But basically, if you absolutely need to lower the polygon of your Void model, there's options to do that in the program. If by any chance, let's say you added Hana tool blend shapes to your model, and you added a lot of Blender stuff to your Void model, and you can't really use Void, you're going to have to use Blender. So if you're a from scratch model, boost model, Void model, whatever model you are, whatever you have, and it's only accessible with Blender or even Maya, whatever 3D program, basically, you have to decimate or retopologize it. Decimating, like, let's say Blender's decimation, it's kind of a more simple and faster way of basically lower polying your, like, making the polygons of your model lower, but of course the topology will be awful, basically, with decimation, unless you do it right. But basically, you could do the decimation modifier, or you could manually retopologize it, which for some people might actually be a very, a not available choice because it takes a long time to do that. So that's a heads up. I would say try to lower your polygon count to around 30k tries, and you should be a-okay with using the phone app, putting your VRM file in there. But once again, I personally don't really put my models in here, mainly because for the most part, it heats up my phone, basically, and it's just unnecessary. So your choice, basically. If by any chance you commission your model from someone else and your model lags, you will have to contact your 3D modeler or whoever the heck is in charge of your 3D model and ask them to decimate it or make it more optimized for you, and let them take care of it, basically. But yeah, but overall that should pretty much cover the what happens if my avatar crashes and all that stuff. But yeah, but that's pretty much how you put your 3D model into Waidayo, FaceMotion3D, and iFacialMocap. And if you want to put your live 2D model into VTube Studio, you can do that. But once again, that's unnecessary if you are using it for VSeeFace only. But once again, if you want to do live 2D and 3D model at the same time tracking, then you could do that. So, hard. You can select like Void Hub. So you can definitely put a Void Hub model in here, although I don't have a Void Hub account. And just a heads up, it's also the buttons on the top left, by the way. Excuse my tracking for not working because my current avatar is using webcam, but basically you press on the little 3 buttons on the top left of the screen, and you could choose a local data avatar here, which is the default. You can choose basically with these options you can definitely be able to import a model in the Waidayo, but you can, once again, with iTunes, you can put your own model, so that way you can have the full ARKit tracking. Now, regarding connection, though, I will say, right here where it says submotion IP address and submotion port, those are actually pretty. This is actually mainly how you can get Waidayo connected to VSeeFace. Now, submotion IP address, you do not have to change. It's pretty much almost the same for everybody. If it's different, maybe change it, but for the most part, that number is pretty much the same for everyone, at least to my knowledge. As for send motion port, I personally have set mine to 3333 because it works well for me. Avatar pin code, that's not needed. I don't really touch that. It's just kind of there, basically. Background, you can change it to dark mode if you want, or light mode if you wish. I have mine set to dark because it's not straining my eyes. If by any chance these numbers on submotion IP address does not work, you copy these numbers in VSeeFace, your character's still not tracking. There's something called the sub send motion IP address here. This is actually a very good thing to have also set up in case it doesn't track on VSeeFace. So you can set up an extra number, which is pretty good, especially if, let's say, another tracking device is using the 3333 sub port. You can also use the other port number here to get working if that's what you wish. All I can really say is experiment, since some depending on how your connection is in setup, some people may still fail to connect on their phones, and some people can actually be able to connect. Just a little fun fact though, I've had some people who DM'd me saying that they could never connect their iPhones to VSeeFace at all, no matter how much they try. And sometimes, let's say if you're moving to a new house, right, and you got a new router, or you set up everything all brand new, basically. If you're moving, you move to a new house and stuff, and you are having a hard time connecting the iPhone to VSeeFace and stuff, and even your firewall is doing good, that's probably something like that where you cannot get the thing connected. You might want to contact your ISP potentially regarding that, or maybe have someone check your router or something. I do recommend making sure that your setup is closest to your router as best as possible. If you're too far away from the router, it's definitely going to make the connection pretty slow or just not work at all. So just a heads up there, though. But for my case, the submotion port works for my case, though, so it's perfectly fine. There's also face tracking here. This is actually where you can edit your face tracking. So eye tracking offset. Let's say your eyes are too far to the right. You can set up the value by just tapping on it and setting up a number, let's say like 2, and you can have it where the eyes, let's say they move less or something. They can move more, they can move less, but it helps with correcting the eye's position, basically. And as for eye tracking, you can actually disable that. If you don't want the eye tracking at all, you can just keep it off, basically. As for mirroring, some people may prefer that sort of mirrored look, so if IRL your head turns right, the avatar's head would turn left. Basically, so if you want mirroring, it can do that. Which I actually prefer mirroring. Usually I prefer to mirror my movements because it just feels right to me, basically. So it's up to you, really. As for mouse tracking offset, this also is power. So basically, if you want your mouse bigger, you might want to set this to 3. This is actually, I believe this is one of the thing that actually makes Waidayo stand out a lot is because since it's a lot more easier to have expressive face tracking, or it's just more easier, this is the settings why people kind of like it. Don't set your power too high though, because you might have your jaw stuck or something. I usually keep mine at 1 because I make my blend shapes by default pretty strong. But if you want, let's say you're using Honda tool blend shapes or something, you want it a little powerful, you can use that. As for eyebrow tracking mode, you can have it to sync or be separate. I don't really see too big of a difference with this, but overall it just adjusts your eyebrow tracking, so it's pretty nice though. So definitely recommend. Face default neutral if you want the neutral blend shape on or off, because of the VRM neutral blend shape, if that's what you want. Some people usually just keep it off, and some people just keep it on. However you like. As for tongue option, you can have it separate or syncing. Usually I have mine separate, but experiment basically. Face tracking mode is basically adjust the character. So basically if you want it just to be face only, where the character's body doesn't move, but only the face tracking here, this is a good option. This is pretty good if you're doing like full body mocap, so there's that. You can have face and position if you kind of want that VSeeFace movement, but with iPhone, you could do that. And then of course rotation only if you want that. Now I definitely would say once again the calibration on Waidayo is still a bit of a derp. Let's say if your character just disappeared, right? Your character disappeared and you don't know what to do. Usually what I have to do is I just have to take my finger, move it up to kind of like have the screen like this, and I just have to yeet out the program's window and then restart the program and just kind of like move my head to fix the calibration. Alright. There you go. And it works. So it's a little bit better now. I just have to restart the app in case the calibration's a little derpish. Now, let's go ahead and set up the tracking with VSeeFace, shall we? So I'm gonna go ahead to VSeeFace, right? I'm gonna go into settings, general settings, and right here in the VMC, you are not gonna touch iPhone ARKit tracking. This is for only iFacialMocap, FaceMotion3D, and VTube Studio. Waidayo is VMC powered, so it will rely on this. Basically what you do is you set up your VMC, set up your IP address. The LAN IP you can't really change in VSeeFace, but it should already be detected. It's pretty smart, so it should be fine. Now basically all you mainly have to do is disable the face tracking feature here, and it works. So basically right now I'm using webcam body, but I have iPhone based face tracking. If you want the body movements on Waidayo, you will have to disable everything else. So that way it does this, and then just move your camera and boom. Very simple to use. Now, what you could also do is, if you want to have let's say you want to have your facial expressions like this, right? Make sure to keep your apply expressions here. If you want them disabled, then just disable the entire thing overall. But if you want to have your stuff here, then keep it like that. You can even adjust blend shape smoothing. So if you want smoother blend shapes, you can increase it. If you want smoother bone smoothing, I have mine set to high because of my mocap suit, but it works basically. And it should be like that. If by any chance it still doesn't work, you might want to change the number here to the sub motion IP that you have. But from my experience, the first motion port should work overall, as long as you set it up correctly. So make sure to double check. You also would have to check your firewall. So if you get that firewall pop-up on your screen saying, I want to connect, you have to say yes. Even though it looks a little sussy, you have to say yes. If you say no, it ain't gonna connect basically. Now, besides that though, I'm gonna go ahead and bring back my webcam tracking. There you go. So that should cover Waidayo, at least for the most part. If by any chance, once again, if you still have issues connecting and you've done everything right, you might want to contact your ISP, or maybe if you have a custom built computer, you might want to check to see how good your computer wires are when it comes to the whole Wi-Fi stuff, because I also had someone who contacted me for help on this, and they found out that the issue was because one of the wires on their custom built PC wasn't fully connected, and they did that and it worked. So that's it. Really just depends, really. So sometimes you may have that super rare issue where the issue cannot be fixed. It could just be like, oh, it's an ISP related issue where after you move out to another house it doesn't work at all. So it might get to hard issues like that, basically. But hopefully this should cover, at least for most people, on the connection stuff. But yeah, so besides that though, we'll get rid of Waidayo. The next app that I want to cover is VTube Studio. VTube Studio is a second app, which I believe is more recommended for a lot of people as well. I think my model is probably going to pop up here. I don't know, or want to default, but basically, oh look, okay, yeah, this is the version with the broken jaw. Let me go ahead, and I believe I can swap out to, yeah, different characters, so I'll use the cat character here. So VTube Studio, while it's a live 2D little app that you can put on your iPhone, this can actually work on VSeeFace actually. So if you don't like Waidayo, and let's say you have a live 2D model, right? You want your 3D and live 2D model to track at the same time with iPhone tracking, right? VTube Studio is definitely a #1 program to actually do that. But I will say, if you want to have it where you're, if you want like the VTube iOS program, right, to track both 3D and the 2D model, you will have to pay for that. But if you're only using VTube Studio just for the 3D model, it is completely free though. That's what I will say. So first of all, make sure to select your avatar. I'm going to choose a little kitty. Cat. It's so cute. And basically what you're going to do, I'm not going to press on the camera button up here because it'll actually show my real face, but that camera option up there, that is where you would calibrate your face tracking. So if, let's say, the tracking on the 2D model here looks a bit off, then you might want to go to that setting and calibrate your face. But I won't show that because I don't want you guys to see my real face. But what you'll do is you're going to press on the gear button here, and like I said, only if you want to have like VTube Studio iOS to your live 2D model into the program, yeah, you'll probably have to pay for it. But 3D only, completely free. So do not worry about this if you're using it for 3D only. But you're going to scroll all the way down here, and you're going to look at the third-party PC clients, and you should have the option activated, basically. So basically for VTube Studio, in order to do the whole IP thing, basically you have to press on show IP list, and basically there, the one that says IPv4, that's the IP you actually have to input into VSeeFace so that way it can work. And then that's basically what I did here. So I'll go ahead here, settings, general settings, and then I'll make sure that the local IP is censored though, just to be safe, but the tracking should work after you set up show IP with that number that I just showed you. And boom, you got face tracking now, and it's actually pretty good. You can also disable hybrid audio lip sync if you just want like smoother face tracking, but this is actually a pretty good option if, let's say, you don't like Waidayo and you want a little bit more control, I guess. The way that the control works pretty much is that basically you rely on parameters. So you'll have to go into the player or the character setting here, and you just have to adjust the you'll have to adjust basically the parameters here, just like a live 2D model. Whatever the live 2D model does, you have to edit that. Probably like, let's say, these little features here. So I can set this to 40, for example. And you can change tracking, even though that thing didn't apply for some reason, because I'm pressing numbers. There you go. So you can like input some numbers here, play around with it depending on how much movement you want. But overall, this is actually pretty good if you want a bit more control in the movement. Kind of pretty much like a live 2D model sort of, except you don't really get the full live 2D model movements, like the whole arm bouncing up and down with your movement. So that's something I'll say. But this is still pretty good overall as an option for iPhone face tracking. So you can mess around with the parameters here. But this is a free program. And yeah, also it does streaming mode on, so that's pretty good. So yeah, I definitely recommend this if you let's say if you have a connection issue with Waidayo and you want to use VTube Studio instead. Also with the bonus side of having your 2D model track with your 3D model alongside. I did not buy VTuber Pro, so I can't really do that though, but that is an option though. So that is a good option basically. Now the next thing, I'm going to go ahead and disable my tracking now. And I'm going to swap over to the next app. So besides VTube Studio, the next app is iFacialMocap. iFacialMocap is pretty much a very popular program. And I'm going to go ahead here real fast and set up the face capture so you can actually see it. But right here in iFacialMocap, this is basically the top recommended VTuber apps, mainly because there's a lot more control you can do with it. And the thing is, while Waidayo and VTube Studio, they're very good. They're very good with getting at least the iFacial the little iPhone tracking on your character for free. iFacialMocap provides more control. So let's say, for example, your jaw is too small, and with VTube Studio or Waidayo, your mouse is still too small in the programs. You might want to probably consider iFacialMocap. Even let's say you also want more control with your blinking too. Like let's say your blinking is kind of like halfway. You can actually do some more control with your blend shape basically, and I'll show you how. So first and foremost, me personally, I always have the character on because I don't want to show my real face. Even though when I stream, if I accidentally show my IRL face on the phone, it will not capture to the stream, but for my case, because I'm showing you guys my phone, I can't press that button to show you. There's record mode. Record mode is actually great if you're someone who wants to take the face tracking to Blender, so it's pretty good. You just send the FBX file to your email, and boom, chakalaka boom, you're done. There's mosaic mode. I never really use that, honestly. There's look forward, so if you want to calibrate your model, and I'll actually go ahead real quickly. I'll go ahead real quickly and kind of like move the screen here so that way you can see a little better. But look forward is basically where you can actually calibrate your face. So if the face is looking too far, just press on look forward and it just resets the character. You might also want to have a hotkey to reset the for VSeeFace, so mine is shift arrow to reset my character in VSeeFace, so that way I have really good tracking. So I make sure to use both of those buttons to make sure my tracking doesn't fly away. And then another extra thing I really like is the upper and lower tracking turn off basically. So let's say you want to use your iPhone with ViveLip Tracker, for instance, for VTubing. You want the iPhone eye, but you don't want the iPhone mouse. Well, just press that button and boom. Voila! Isn't that great? I think it could be a bit finicky depending on how you're setting up your other face tracking, but this is a pretty good option to have more control. Or let's say you don't want to blink at all and you just want just the mouse. Look at that. I can't blink anymore. Now you can stare at my eyes forever. Anyways, but that's a pretty good, that's pretty good. And then you could just press on close if you want it off, but you can also press the screen again to bring it back on. So very good. As for the gear button is it's like your Bible sort of thing. Like it's the Bible of the face tracking. And for some reason, oh yeah, that's right. If you turn on the gear, it will disable your face tracking. So now you see my character turned off, but when you get back, it should turn on basically. So basically here, there's optimized for long streaming. I recommend always turn this option on so that way it doesn't heat up your phone too easily. It'll still heat it up, but not as easily because it's not rendering the character or the head model in there anymore. You can also, I know by default with the newest version of iFacialMocap, you'll have a V2 UI, which is still pretty good, as you can see. Pretty decent. It has the reset buttons, look forward, but I kind of still don't like it because when I'm doing iPhone rigging for other people, I don't like how the V2 UI removes the ability to turn off the eyes and the mouth feature. This is also a missing feature as well on FaceMotion3D. I don't know why, but I personally always prefer to have as V1 because, like I said, I do a lot of iPhone ARKit rigging. These two are my saving grace. So instead of always having to freaking go to Blender, freaking zero manually all the blend shape, because Blender has no option to multi-select shape keys, at least what I know of. I use this to basically be a saving grace for time because we gotta hurry up with tests and stuff. But I make sure you keep mine disabled here, though. But for now, I'll actually keep it off because I also want to show you guys the most very important setting of iFacialMocap. This is also on FaceMotion3D. Adjusting the motion weight. Adjusting the motion weight is basically where, let's say, your eyes are not blinking properly. Your mouth is too small. You have weird clipping issues with your smile. You feel like your frown is too big, or your smile is too big, or maybe your smile is too small, or something. Or you feel like, oh, your eyebrows are not moving enough. This is what helps. Now, do keep in mind, depending on how your blend shapes are made, you might still need Blender. So, just keep that in mind, that you can't escape from Blender. But let's say, for example, I want to make my mouth bigger. Jaw open. We'll start off with jaw open. And what you're going to do, what I usually do is I always adjust the weight. Let's say, for example, 2.0, right? We want to make the jaw big, and it gets a little bigger though, although I do have hybrid lip sync on, so you can't really tell with my model here, but here. I disabled it, and it should have a bit of a bigger mouth movement. You can also adjust it more. You don't have to, cause it's recommended, like, you can still adjust like one blend shape at a time, but don't expect one blend shape to be like the fixer-upper, unless it depends on your case. I would just say experiment, really. If you want to make your mouth bigger, yes, start off with jaw open. You can also do mouth funnel if you want to have that more U shape, I guess. It really depends, or let's say if your model has like a slightly open mouth and you want to keep your mouth closed, you can also like reduce the values too. So let's say my mouth was too big and I need to close my mouth. You can even set to 0. Let's say 3 or 5 even, and basically the mouth won't move that much. As you can see with my character, I can't move my mouth. Oh my god! No matter how hard I try, it will not move the mouth unless I make it bigger. So that's a pretty cool feature. All I can really say is just experiment with it. If you don't know, let's say you commission your ARKit blend sheet from someone else, right? And you have no idea what the frick these blend shapes are. I'll make sure to put in the link in the description a reference, the official ARKit developer like reference guide for the blend shape. So if you do want to see like a sort of visual on how each blend shape looks like, you can take a look and use it as reference to have better control with your blend shapes. But for the most part, you should be able to, it's kind of a little bit self-explanatory, but for some people they may need a reference. So check out the link in the description for the resources. And also, just play around with setting. Now, as for min and maximum is basically what kind of stretches out the blend shape. So let's say you want a negative value on your tracking, sort of. If you want a bit of some negative values, you want to utilize it, you could try and use, let's say negative 0.3, even though it's giving me error. I think FaceMotion3D does utilize this, but, at least, like, yeah, I think FaceMotion3D does kind of utilize this good, because I do see negative values on FaceMotion3D. As for iFacialMocap, not too sure. Yeah, no, it's not going to do negative values here. But maximum, usually I would, sometimes if you want to, let's say, make your blend shape stretchier, you could do, like, 4.0. Minimum, let's say, if I really do want to make my mouth slightly open, I could do 2.0, for example, just extreme values. And it will do something like that. Okay, and my mouth is stuck. Oh, Yeah, you can do some crazy stuff with it. You can even make your tongue longer if you want. I'm not even kidding about that one. I'll even show you right now, actually. 1.0, right? Let's find the tongue blend shape. We're going to make this into, let's say the value of 10. Let's be that extreme. It's okay. I see. It's not gonna be stretchy. It used to got very stretchy though. Oh, wait, that's right. Have to set up the weight too. My bad. Hold on. Set the weight to 10. There you go. For some models, it may not work out. For my model, as you can see, it's not doing the stretching. It kinda stretches, but not extreme like the model here. But yes, you could do some pretty stretchy stuff if you want. Alright, let's go ahead and let's say you do make a mistake and you want to reset those blend shapes. Just press on the reset blend shape setting and boom, it's all resetted. Now this only works for all the blend shapes, so you can't reset a single one. You'll just have to make sure to remember the numbers and just set accordingly. And you can also set up your head rotation position if you want to move more and stuff, but I'm not gonna play with that. But you can even set up smoothing motion if you want a bit more smoothness in your mocap. So if you feel like iFacialMocap is a bit too choppy, maybe consider making some smoothness to the settings. It'll probably make your movement smoother. You can also do the same in VSeeFace. You can use the smoothest settings in VSeeFace and adjust it, but you can definitely use this instead if you want to make it as smooth as FaceMotion3D. So if you don't want to pay for FaceMotion3D, you might want to consider playing with those settings for smoother results, basically. But yeah, overall though, you can set up your destination IP if you wish for more advanced features, detail settings if you want to, I guess if you want to change up some stuff, language if you prefer a different language. There's collaboration apps tutorials, which is pretty good. FaceMotion3D, which gives you information on the difference between iFacialMocap and FaceMotion3D. To be honest, I actually do, because some people have asked me my preference between iFacialMocap and FaceMotion3D. I personally do prefer FaceMotion3D because I don't have to really use an extra app when I transfer my face tracking to Blender. It just saves some convenience. However, if you are on a budget, I would recommend just stay with iFacialMocap. You technically can achieve similar results to FaceMotion3D with just iFacialMocap alone, because they are from the same creator. And ARKit on itself, basically, basically all these apps, Waidayo, VTube Studio, iFacialMocap, FaceMotion3D, Rokoko, any ARKit based tracking app are pretty much the same. It's just a matter of what settings they have. I'm not even kidding. So it's really just up to you on if you want to upgrade. I mainly just upgrade because when I'm doing the tracking to Blender, I don't need another app. And also, let's say I'm doing a custom Unity setup. I don't want to use the iFacialMocap PC software. I want to have it where the app connects directly to Unity, kind of like how I'm doing with VSeeFace with iFacialMocap, with a custom solution, that is. I can do that, so that's kind of why I also prefer FaceMotion3D, mainly just convenience of an extra program for connection. You don't need the extra program, the iFacialMocap PC program. You don't need it if you're doing it for VTubing only, but if you're kind of like a more advanced user with 3D and you're working with Unity and stuff, then maybe it's just a matter, you just have to once again just check over the link, just tap here and then just check out, read and see do you prefer it and stuff. And if you do have questions, if you do have more questions regarding FaceMotion3D and stuff, feel free to ask me. But for the most part, if you just want to use iFacialMocap just for basic VTubing, you just want the tracking, you don't want to spend a lot of money, just stick with iFacialMocap. If you are willing to spend a lot of money and you do want to have a little bit more advanced features, that's kind of where I would recommend FaceMotion3D. Do keep in mind, technically, because of the extra settings, it technically makes FaceMotion3D better, and I'll show you right now. So here's FaceMotion3D, right? So here we got the app. Looks like this. It's a newer setup, and as you can see, it just automatically connects. So if you're using FaceMotion3D, can work on Muppet, VMagic Mirror, because FaceMotion3D does have the ability to connect with the iFacialMocap port, which is pretty good and very powerful, to be honest. There is the face. I will show you right now. So right here, right, you can connect to either iFacialMocap here, as long as you set up your IP, which on iFacialMocap, there'll be that blue ribbon on the top. You just type that number in, and then boom, it should connect, basically. But FaceMotion3D, it's pretty much the same port. They kind of just do the same thing, really. But you once again type in the IP. So in order to type in that IP, basically, for iFacialMocap, it's on the top blue ribbon. For FaceMotion3D, you just have to press on this top left, and then there's a number right there for you. So for me personally, in order to get connected to VSeeFace, I had to use the other option, which looks like this, basically. And there's Unreal Engine, Blender, DAZ, Maya, and Unity. I have only purchased Unity, Blender, and Other. That's the only things I purchased. I did not buy Unreal Engine because you could just use LiveLink. But still, then again, it's still pretty good that there's Unreal Engine support in case you do prefer your tracking settings to transfer over to Unreal Engine. But DAZ and Maya, I don't use those two programs, so it's unnecessary for me to buy it. But basically, once you have that, you should be able to connect it. And yes, you do have to pay. You have to pay for the extra stuff. If you want to record, you have to pay. If you want to stream, you gotta pay. And there's apparently only a like, if you're trying to do the connection from FaceMotion3D to VSeeFace, you can only do it for a couple seconds before it asks you to pay, though, which is kind of a shame. But once again, this is why I kind of prefer most people would have iFacialMocap, because iFacialMocap is just about $7-ish, just about, and pretty much overall has everything else. You basically have access to every feature. FaceMotion3D pricing is kind of but I do like the program, though, nonetheless, because once again, I have a little bit more control. Just a little bit more. So, for instance, adjusting motion weight, you have the option, kind of like what Waidayo has, where you can increase by 0.1, decrease by 0.1, and once again, like iFacialMocap, you can reset the blend shapes. And also the good thing too about FaceMotion3D is that, you know, just like how you saw me fail at the negative values for iFacialMocap, FaceMotion3D actually apparently does negative values pretty well. At least what I'm seeing here. So you can experiment with that. It might give you some issue with the negative values, so do keep that in mind, but it is possible in FaceMotion3D, at least from what I'm seeing. You can have separation of left and right eyebrow, but to be honest though, I don't really see VSeeFace taking that sort of movement, so I don't think this option is going to really be super effective for VSeeFace. In fact, I don't really see this option work in Blender either when I do live streaming, so I'm not sure. Like, I still keep the option on, but I'm not sure why it doesn't work, though. So, even if you have this on, you can't really do that individual eyebrow tracking. If you really want individual eyebrow tracking, you'll have to rig your model where the individual eyebrow goes down when you wink, basically. That'll be a Blender thing. And then you can do reduce angry eyebrows when the mouse smile parameter is raised. I never really turn it on. It kind of looks a little weird, but it's still good for some people. I think this one might actually work with the streaming, but once again, I never use it because it looks a little weird, at least for my case and my preference. But it doesn't hurt to try them out, though. But you can enable head rotation, or you can disable if you wish. Adjust the motion weight, like I said, you can do that. You can smooth the motion out, which I definitely recommend also if you want to have smoother movement. This is basically kind of like iFacialMocap. Kind of like similar settings, except you got these, so should kind of work the same way as long as you just adjust it right, and also utilize VSeeFace's smoothness settings. Behavior of the reset button, you can also have some more control on calibration wise, which is pretty nice. I don't really mess with the settings though, but if you wish to have some specific calibration settings, you can do that. Streaming settings, this is where I kind of really like FaceMotion3D, because I don't have to use the iFacial PC program for Blender or Unity. I could just use this, and this is where you have to pay for it. And basically you have the settings here, so you got Blender, you got Unreal Engine, other, all that. Mainly for other, this is, once again, this is where it will transfer to VSeeFace or either VSeeFace, VMagic Mirror, Luppet, as long as you select on compatible with iFacialMocap, so it works. You could also, if you wish, you can also get the Unity one as well if you wish, but from what I've experimented, the other option works for VSeeFace. So if you only just want to buy one thing, probably might buy other, probably. Now, you can also, once again, you can unlock recording time. I've bought the recording time. It's I bought the permanent license for mine, so that was about that's $17 there, which if you're just doing it for VTubing, you don't need it. If you're doing it for like animation, like what I'm doing, you probably might want to need it. For this one, if you just want to do it for VSeeFace only, you might want to get this $15 one. If you're a Maya user, you might want to get this, but if you're not doing Maya, don't get it. DAWs, if you use DAWs, you can get it, but I don't use DAWs. Blender, I need it for my rigging and also to transfer the mocap to Blender if I want to do it for animation, so I had to buy the $17 one. If you've never touched Blender before, I don't recommend buying this. You probably might be better with iFacialMocap in itself, or just the other option basically on FaceMotion3D. Unreal Engine, if you want to use it for Unreal Engine, you can, which is about $12. But you can also use LiveLink, which is a free alternative to this if you wish to stay on the cheaper side, I guess. But yeah, overall, I only bought pretty much just 3 things out of this, so yeah, that's at least what I did. I bought the permanent license, so I never have to pay it again. And let's say if you did lose your purchase or something, you have to restart your phone or something, you can restore purchases as long as you keep the email, basically, so you should be fine. iPhone's IP address, you can basically, that's basically what the local IP for the iPhone is. I never really touch it though, so we don't have to touch that. There's voice recognition, which is actually pretty good if you want that microphone with the microphone movement with your iPhone tracking. VSeeFace already has hybrid lip sync, so this is kind of useless for VSeeFace, but if you're doing this for like a from scratch program or you're doing it for Blender or something, this might be pretty useful for you actually. Another cool thing about FaceMotion3D that iFacialMocap doesn't have is that you can actually export and save your settings. So let's say you're working with multiple clients for your iPhone ARKit commissions, or let's say you're someone who uses a lot of models and you want to have different settings per model. This is a great option. So you can import, and as you can see here, I have different setting slots basically. You can actually be able to do that with FaceMotion3D, so this is really cool. Also, FaceMotion3D, I think you accidentally added an extra S, but basically you can export the in-app settings and then import it so that way you can switch settings. It actually works pretty good and I like it, so that's a really cool thing. Other functions, you can play around with this. There's even the optimize for long time streaming, although from my experience it tends to bug out a lot. Like every time I keep restarting the app, it keeps showing the actual default human model, the human head on the app, so that's why I never really turn it on though. But if you need it, you can use it, but from my experience it kind of bugs out a little bit. But you can play with this other thing as well, but you can even do automatically save FBX if you're doing the FBX thing, but I don't really touch those things. You can display, you can swap out the UI elements, change background if you want to have like a cat picture or something, I don't know. Language, and then the extra information about the program and collaboration apps. And overall, you can even go here and select your avatar, the avatar here. You can even import a VRM model, but for my model crashes the app, so it's not going to work with this one. In fact, for FaceMotion3D, I recommend just at least have just the head version of your character if you really want to have your model in the app. You can still use like your full body character like a Vroid model, but if your model is really high poly, no, you probably just need the head model or just stick with the default models here. And you can press on this and you can actually use the settings here. Oh, so yeah. So it works well. This doesn't really affect the tracking too much. They pretty much do the same thing. I guess it's just for visual appeal. I usually just stick with this head because I'm used to this head though. I feel like this head would probably have a nice name. I'll name you Bob. Hello, Bob the Head. Bob the Head. Alright, so, but yeah, overall, and then you can reset here in the reset setting, and that way it'll make sure the face is recalibrated. Although, I'll be honest though, you gotta make sure to have a proper face pose, so basically a neutral face, which looks like this. So, make sure you have that neutral face, so that way, if by any chance, let's say your one eyebrow is too high up, or your mouse is, like, glitched in, make sure to look straight at your phone, press the reset with a neutral face, a straight face basically, and you should be good. Depending on the person, you might want to reset a few times, but overall it should work. And of course there's a reset or the record option up here. You can definitely use the option if you want to, like, record an FBX file for your Blender use or Mocap use, but overall, if you're just doing it for VTubing, you don't need that option. You just need send the live streaming to VSeeFace, you're done. Just make sure to copy the IP address, the local IP to VSeeFace, you're done. And make sure to also, if you get any firewall pop-ups, make sure you say yes to it. Even though it looks sussy, you gotta say yes to it. And that should pretty much cover up with FaceMotion3D. And also, as a bonus, there is the Rokoko face capture application as well. So if you are a Rokoko user, it's a pretty straight program, straightforward program. So you can press on Rokoko remote. This can work on VSeeFace as well. It will only track the face though, so you'll need to have Rokoko Studio, and you'll need to have Rokoko to BMC, which I will go ahead and quickly set up just to show you how exactly the program looks like, or like how the program acts like with your VTuber avatar. So I'll go ahead here in Rokoko, accept it, and basically, hold on, I will go ahead and set up Rokoko to BMC, and basically, you will see the face tracker, the tracking here. I'll have to click on send blend shapes to for Rokoko to VMC, which I have a tutorial on how I set up my Rokoko gear for VSeeFace. So if you're curious about that, I'll link in the description that whole Rokoko tutorial on the face capture and the Mocap suit on how I'm using Rokoko to VMC, and also the Rokoko to VMC download is there. So if you want the program, check out the tutorial in the description, and that way you could be able to learn about the Rokoko stuff if you wish to use it. Do keep in mind that the Rokoko face capture is a paid option. So you have to actually pay for a Rokoko face capture. The only use I would see with Rokoko face capture is primarily just for if you want to have face capture with the Mocap suit. But if you're just doing it for like simple VTubing, you have FaceMotion3D or iFacialMocap or Waidayo or VTube Studio set up, technically you don't need the Rokoko face tracking app. If you know how to set those up, you really don't need the Rokoko face capture app. It's still good. It's still good for like industry users, but just general VTubers, this can get a bit too pricey for you. I don't remember the pricing though. All I know is that it can get pretty expensive per month. So keep that in mind. Now, all I really have to do is do the same thing I did with what I have to do is I have to do the same thing with like I did with Waidayo. Let me go ahead and set the face tracking up on Rokoko Studio, and that way you can see here that my face tracking works. There is no head rotation, which is kind of a shame. It would be a pretty cool option to have like the head, because there's the position tracking in Rokoko, but it doesn't translate over because once again, this is mainly for Mocap suit users. So if you want the head rotation, you might as well just use iFacialMocap, FaceMotion3D, Waidayo, or VTube Studio. But once again, I recommend this for, like, I guess industry users who want to use it at the same time with the Mocap suit, but VTuber-wise, kind of useless. So I'm sorry to say. Still a cool app though, and I definitely look forward to their new to their new version of the Rokoko face tracking, which is called Face Capture, which is actually being actively updated. Hopefully, as the Rokoko beta updates and stuff. So yeah, and overall, the other applications I have, which you see Minchicon Plus, VTuber Chat, or Virtual Face, I don't think those work. From what I've tested, those don't really work with VSeeFace. They're just their own like extra VTuber programs. If you wish to check them out, Virtual Face, I think potentially they might work with VSeeFace with the VMC, but last time I tried, it didn't work, so I'm not too sure. I'll have to play with the program more to experiment that. But overall, if I were to tell you guys basically what I personally prefer, regarding the face tracking, I personally prefer FaceMotion3D just because of the controls I have. But once again, if you are someone who don't want to spend a lot of money, stick with iFacialMocap if you want more controls at a cheaper price. But if you're someone who don't want to spend money at all, because you already spent a lot of money on an iPhone or something, that's when I would recommend VTuber Studio, or you could just use Waidayo. Or if you don't want to spend an iPhone at all, just use VTuber Studio, VTube Studio on the Android, or MeowFace, which is they're both free on Android and they're really good to use. But overall, hopefully that helps you out. And just a reminder as well before I go, make sure that you check, you double check, depending on the program, the app that you're using, check the tracking app, wherever you want, iFacialMocap, FaceMotion3D, or VTube Studio. Make sure to input your correct IP, and then go ahead and, make sure these three options are enabled. Unless you want to use webcam tracking for the head, you can definitely have that option. So it's webcam body, but iPhone face if you want that. If you don't want that, you can just stick with that, which is pretty nice. You can have hybrid audio lip sync, so if you want more emphasized phonemes for your character, you can use that. I personally use that on my model. And once again, you can also play with some of the VSeeFace settings as well, so that way, if something looks a little off, you might want to change it, or just play around with the in-app settings. And if you're using, let's say Waidayo, make sure to disable the track face features here, and deselect these track body options if you want to have Waidayo's body movements. But overall, just experiment though, play around with it, and depending on what you want to use it for, you might want to just play around with it. And overall, that should cover most of the face tracking apps that can be used for VTubers. Now, do keep in mind though, because of how much VTubing is growing, this tutorial might get outdated one day. Like, who knows? Who knows if something like FaceWare or FaceGood will become more affordable to the point where VTubers will start using it and having even more insane face tracking? Or what about Vive Lip Tracker blended with the Virtual Motion Capture PC Patreon program? So there's potential in like more face tracking applications that'll probably pop up for some people. What about RTX face tracking? There's so much possibility. So overall, just keep in mind that definitely with how face tracking mocap overall is changing, it will definitely it's going to change quite a lot. So keep updated on the new any sort of face tracking or body tracking, even like Mocap or Slime VR. Just keep in mind about how mocap is, like the new mocap devices and stuff. So that's all I can really say though. But that's all I really have to say, just to summarize the whole thing about face tracking, and just a little extra thing about, there's going to be possibly new face tracking devices that are more affordable and also more expressive. So pretty cool, right? Now, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I hope that this tutorial gave you a lot of information about the different options for iOS-based face tracking. And as for Android face tracking, I will leave in the description those apps that I do recommend. And yeah, let me know if you have any other questions. If by any chance you have problems with connectivity with your app, once again, check your firewall there. I'll make sure to leave resources down below that should help you. But if you're having issues connecting to VSeeFace or any program of your choice, make sure to double check that, one, the app is compatible with the program you're trying to use it for. Check your firewall to make sure that it is allowed in your firewall settings and your bound settings. Not only that, make sure to check that your iPhone and your PC have the same network. So you can still have your PC, so let's say you have a desktop, you can have it on Ethernet while the iPhone is Wi-Fi based, or you can even have it where the desktop and the iPhone are Ethernet powered. Yes, fun fact, iPhones can be Ethernet powered. You just gotta get an Ethernet adapter for your charger, and boom, you get Ethernet on the phone. So that's a pretty good option there. I'll make sure to leave in the description for where you could buy these stuff or get these information so you can be powerful. So you can definitely do that on an iPhone. So if you have issues connecting, you can consider Ethernet on an iPhone. And if by chance, no matter what you try, it still doesn't work, you might want to contact your ISP, maybe get some information about your router, or maybe possibly move your computer or your setup to another area in your house. Because I had a time where I was in one room in my house and I could never properly connect my Mocap suit or my iPhone tracking in that room, but when I moved to a different room, it ended up working perfectly. So you might want to probably experiment that. But yeah, that's some tips regarding troubleshooting, pretty much. But overall, I'll make sure to leave my socials here in case you want to contact me regarding any help regarding 3D, or if you need some advice, or even some tutoring help or something, whichever it is. And if you have other questions, you can comment down on YouTube, and you can even suggest a new tutorial. If you, let's say, if you want to learn about, I don't know, MMD stuff, you can ask me, oh, I want to learn about how to manually rig an MMD, or PMX editor for that case. I will listen and I will try my best to make those tutorials. I can be a bit slow on tutorials, keep that in mind, but I will do my very best to post as much as I can, so that way I can teach you guys more about 3D and also VTuber stuff and basically whatever it's in my brain cells. So yeah, with that being said though, hey, saying that everyone, I hope to see you guys next time, okay? Bye bye!